Sounds like there was a big crowd last night.
Well, we just went to the initial event at the local, not to the field house. We had a VIP treatment there.
I did that last time at the Hotel Schwamigan.
With Gilbert Brown.
No, it was Mark Murphy. I was with her, but
Mhm.
it was like Amon Green and Longwell and I forget who all it was. But it's cool. It was half dozen of them. So,
I remember growing up, I went to one. It was a Scholar Athlete Award or something. With Wayne Larrabee and Max McGee. It was really fun. They were just telling stories.
that'd be a hoot. Max McGee is always great to listen to.
Yeah.
And he ended up dying because he fell off a roof, blowing leaves out of his gun.
Really?
Yeah. Because he lived in like Minneapolis, St. Paul area. But he was always good to listen to. Gilbert Brown, he still lives in Wisconsin. He was down in the lacrosse area for the longest time, along with one of the cornerbacks from the time. Which one it was? But the firm I worked for, they were both clients, and they got into a little bit of naughtiness that never made the headlines.
Yep. Well, that's my. Standing next to Aaron Jones. He's not any bigger than me.
No, neither was Amon Green.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you not get absolutely crushed?
right? Yeah, I thought the same thing. I mean,
I
I
would
suppose
never go out there with those guys.
no kidding, because then you stand next to the lineman, and they're like,
Yeah.
Christ. I mean, you can see why running backs have such a short life, because they get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like a car crash every time they
Yeah.
get the ball. $57 now? Jeez.
Yeah.
They're supposed to get almost 6 inches of snow Sunday night.
We are.
Oh no,
I don't want to do that.
½ inch of rain tomorrow.
That won't help the flooding. Mike Pedersen passed away
Oh, really?
this morning.
He's not that old.
Oh, it's not public yet.
What did he die from?
Doesn't say. It was a city email.
Was he still the fire chief?
Yeah.
Oh.
Had this case in Clark County. Stupid thing with one of my clients. I'm doing something else for, and that is an easy violate a restraining order case. Got him on a deferred entry agreement, so it was all fine. But then he had to get counseling and send counseling notes to the DA's office. And the DA's office keeps refusing to take his calls or accept anything from him. So he didn't get it. So they filed a motion to vacate.
Come on.
And I then sent all the information to the DA. And I had filed a request to appear remotely at all proceedings, which was granted. And we were getting up on the hearing for this motion to vacate, and I was just sitting in the Zoom waiting, sitting there, and I'd called the clerk's office, and then just to confirm it was the same Zoom login information. And as I'm sitting there, it's been like 7 minutes later, I get a call from the clerk's office, and they said, "Oh, you weren't authorized to appear via Zoom." And I was watching the Lindsay Frederick something. I'd never had her on anything else, but then as I was sitting there, I was watching CCAP and the court record pops up. Warrant issued, a warrant issued for my client. And the description there was client had notice of meeting, attorney had notice of meeting, attorney was on Zoom, but had not filed authorization to, or request for authorization to appear.
Did you lay into the judge, I hope?
Yeah, I filed a motion immediately and said, I've had this authorization on file, or had the request to appear remotely and an authorization to appear on my client's behalf on file. I've been allowed to appear at every hearing via Zoom and didn't have to resubmit that authorization. And my client shouldn't be held get in trouble here because I specifically told him not to appear.
Don't worry though, there's no problem with the void ab initio warrant being
Yeah.
issued.
So then they canceled the warrant. But in the text of this order, I was just looking at, it said. Where did that go?
Oops. Oh,
No, it blamed me.
blamed you. Oh.
Yeah, it blamed me. It said that previous authorizations to appear and previous orders for remote appearance are revoked. The matter had went to disposition, so the court would not consider those orders to be relied upon. But they never made any order. You just revoked it now, so that means if they weren't relied upon, you wouldn't need to revoke them. But just like, and I was sitting there.
So has Bob ever said anything about the case we took to the Supreme Court?
No, I don't think so.
He's never said anything to us.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
If the state believes it has grounds for a warrant to be reissued, it has leave to apply for an arrest warrant. There's no, how would you get an arrest warrant on a motion for failure to appear on a motion to vacate a deferred entry agreement?
What?
That's what the court's order says.
I'd write the court a letter and say, this appears to be quite nonsensical.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Ugh.
I'm glad they didn't pick my client up though,
Uh,
in the interim. Lindsay Burnett, the judge.
Oh, Lindsay. You know, I'm seeing some of these other judges that are getting appointed, and it's just like,
Yep.
I
Not long till you
realize-
run, eh?
I don't think so.
You guys ready?
Yep.
All right. Can you see her fine?
Yeah, so
Yes.
before we get going, exhibits that have not been admitted, I'll just quick run through what I've got that have not been.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, let me sit forward here. Exhibits that have not been forward or admitted so far. We have various emails from Kim Lavasseur, amended witness list. I guess that's not really an exhibit. Statement with Ashland County exhibit and witness list. Ashland County Jail Policy and Procedure Manual. I thought that one was admitted. I'll have to check.
Yeah.
February 16th, 2023 response and grievance. That's in there. That's a double. We don't have in there the grievance filing. Emails regarding property and open records request, emails showing Lavasseur's performance. Letter of appreciation email between Lavasseur and Zupke, email Lavasseur password, email from Lindsay to Lavasseur meeting. Email from Lavasseur to Lindsay, letter from Minson to Lavasseur. I think the grievance form is just the policy, if I remember right. And then there's a file that is Lavasseur Open Records Response. None of that's in there. And that one's quite large.
Well, that was a different response. You're on that?
No,
That's
that has, none of that stuff has been admitted. So I
That's,
just,
none of that is part of the hearing. Was that included in the Dropbox? That was
think it
responsive.
was.
Yeah, Max, I totally misunderstood that myself.
Did I put that in the wrong file?
I mean, but I thought you sent an email afterwards saying that it was included. That's what I got confused on.
Oh, no.
But I don't, we haven't used it. Don't sweat yourself.
No, that was a response to an open records request that I had intended to send in a different Dropbox file.
well, that's good because there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in there that doesn't look like anything to do with this.
Yeah.
so, Okay. Okay, with that, are you ready to go? Mr.
I
Mayor?
am.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Ms. Lavasseur, can you raise your right hand? You swear, the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I will. I do.
All right, can you hear okay?
Yes.
All right, speak up as loud as you can. Okay.
Okay.
Did you ever work for Washington, Ashland County anytime?
Yes,
Okay, and what was your last position that you worked at, Washington County, Ashland County?
I was the jail administrator.
Okay, and, were you terminated from that role?
Yes.
Okay, how did you first learn of your termination?
I first learned of it from Sue Mission, from the county clerk's office.
Okay, how did that come about?
I called her on January 30th to talk about my insurance. And she said that she had gotten an email saying I was terminated on January 19th.
Okay. On January 19th, did you get, any letter about your employment status?
I did.
Okay, what did that letter say?
That I was demoted and that I could stay on as a correctional officer.
Okay. And did you meet with the sheriff at any time after that?
He called me to his office approximately 2 to 3 minutes after I received that letter.
Okay. And during that conversation or during that meeting, was Mr. Cadet present?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And did they discuss your continued employment with the county?
Yes,
Okay. And when you left that meeting, did you understand that you had continued employment with the county?
yes,
Okay. After that meeting, did you contact the sheriff at any time?
yes.
Okay. Did you inform the sheriff at that time that you were thinking about accepting the offer of continued employment?
I sent him an email requesting to talk to him about my continued employment status.
That's fair. Okay. And is that how it was put to you, your continued employment status?
And that's what was in the letter from Attorney Lindsay.
Okay. And did the sheriff respond to you at any time?
The next day, he sent me an email back saying that all, any questions I have need to go back through Max Lindsay.
Okay. Now, let's say the letter that you got from Mr. Lindsay, did that explain to you why you were removed as the jail administrator?
No,
Okay. Did Mr. Lindsay explain to you why you were removed as the jail administrator?
No,
Okay. When you met with Mr. Zupke, did he explain to you any reasons that you were removed as jail administrator?
he said that he didn't want to start off his term with a lawsuit.
Okay. And you have a knowledge and understanding of the policies and procedures that govern the jail?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a work rule violation that for causing liability to the county?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And did the sheriff identify any work rules in his meeting with you after you were demoted as jail administrator?
He said that the inmate, oh, how do you say it? He said, I wasn't watching the inmates close enough and that I wasn't writing staff members up and that I didn't inform him of the sexual assault.
Okay, and let's just stick with that. Is that was that statement that he made that you hadn't informed him of the sexual assault, was that a factual statement?
No,
How do you know that?
because I told him,
Okay, when did you tell
in November.
him? Okay, and in
That was November.
November. Was that someday other than the last day of the month?
It was previous to the last day of the month.
Okay, and we've seen an email to Mr. Zupke on November 15th. Do you call that email?
Yes,
Okay, were you copied on that?
yes,
Okay, and what was the purpose of that email?
stating that the Ashland Police Department could not do the investigation and that they were returning the paperwork.
Okay, so is that what you meant by, or was, okay, because you didn't do that. So did you inform him of the investigation or the allegation prior to or after receiving that letter?
After.
Okay. And prior to receiving that letter, did you inform the sheriff?
Yes,
Okay,
Wait, just for clarification, by letter, are you referring to the email from Scott Moreland?
yeah, the 11:15, and I'm
Okay.
sorry, if you could tell us, if you know that number, let's get
No,
that.
that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it's that email and not some other letter.
No, that's right, you're right,
Okay.
but just for the record here, if we got that exhibit, let's say it, but otherwise, we're on the same page, thank you. So, did you inform the sheriff prior to receiving that November 15th letter?
yes.
Okay. When did you inform the sheriff?
As soon as he came back from vacation.
Okay, so is it fair to say that he was out on vacation when you learned of these allegations?
Yes.
Okay, how did you learn of the allegations?
From a letter written by an inmate.
Okay. And to be clear, there's a report that we've seen from September.
Yes,
Okay, when did you learn of that?
after it happened, in September.
Okay, and when you learned of was that an allegation of sexual assault, or what was the allegation that happened that caused a report to be generated in September?
I would have to review the report.
Okay. Well, just for time, if we need to do that, we will, but for right now, I guess my question is, did you cause that report to be written, or did somebody else do that report?
Anytime that something happens in the jail, I require the staff to write a report, get a log number from dispatch, write a report, and then get a copy of that report to me so that I know something occurred.
Okay, so, and so at this 9/27 report, you would have, there would have been because it's an incident report, they would have been logged in a central system, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, and you believe, and you had access to that,
yes,
and you reviewed that document then?
yes,
Did Brian Zupke have access to that at that time?
yes,
Okay, do you know if he reviewed that document?
I do not.
Okay. Now, what action, if any, was taken in September related to the inmate allegation?
The inmates were pulled out of the cell block discreetly and talked to, and it was all unfounded allegations, and it wasn't actual sexual assault allegations at that point.
Okay,
It was just harassment. So when we determined that it was not, it was an unfounded claim, we asked him if he felt safe to go back in, and he actually refused to leave the cell block with him, with the suspect, I guess you call him.
okay, so there was resistance from the alleged victim to be separated from the alleged perpetrator. Is that fair to say? Okay,
Yes.
got it. Now, is that where that report stood in September?
Yes,
Okay. Did you report that up to anybody other than anybody above you at that time?
those types of reports, I didn't report to anyone because they actually have access to them. If it's serious, like, if somebody breaks something or anything like that, then I do bring up, important reports,
Okay,
but, this was unfounded,
okay,
so it was decided not to bring it to anybody. But I'm sure in my daily chats, because I had daily chats with the sheriff and the chief deputy, I'm sure it was brought up.
okay. And this is just the September incident.
Yes,
Okay. And did you meet with the chief deputy then on a regular basis regarding the jail administration?
yes.
Okay,
Well, when he was available, he was gone quite frequently.
okay. And let's just talk about the end of 2022. Would you say he was gone quite frequently then?
He was.
Okay, and do you know why he was gone frequently?
He did not get along with the current sheriff, and so he didn't want to be there.
Okay. So and that was the condition in September and October of 2022?
In September, October, the sheriff was on vacation.
Okay, so in October, the chief deputy was actually there.
Yes,
Okay,
most of the time.
I understand. So, but was there any sort of mechanism set up for you and the chief deputy to have a regular meeting about these kind of reports?
No,
Okay,
I would go to his office. If he was in there, I would go in and sit and we would chat. If he wasn't in there, then I would just go back to my office.
I understand that. Okay, so, and let's say he wasn't there because as you described before, because there was some hostility between him and the sheriff at that time.
Correct.
Okay, would that have precluded you from making reports to the chief, to Mr. Zupke at that point?
Yes.
Okay, and then if Mr. Zupke is not available for whatever reason, who would you then go to?
I would go to the sheriff, and then if he wasn't available, I would go to the chief deputy.
How would you do that if the chief deputy wasn't there?
I would go to his office.
So was he like hiding? I don't want to mean hiding. It was, when you say he wasn't there, what do you mean?
He was not in the building quite frequently.
Okay. So, okay. But I'm saying if there's an emergency and the chief deputy is not physically present, you're saying you would then go to the sheriff.
Yes,
Okay, but if the sheriff wasn't present, what would you do?
I would call.
Call. I got it.
They would call me back.
I got it. But you wouldn't call the chief deputy right away. You would just go to the sheriff because the sheriff was there.
Yes,
Okay. Do you understand at any time, based on your training, that whether or not the sheriff or the chief deputy was in charge of the jail?
yes.
Who was in charge of the jail based on your understanding?
The sheriff is ultimately responsible for the jail, but it's also in the chief deputy's job description to be the manager of the jail.
Okay. So let's move forward. I mean, were there any incidents between, say, 9/27 and 10/23 between the two inmates in question?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So if that's the case, did you ever receive a letter from one of the inmates complaining about the other?
Yes,
Okay. And how did you receive that letter?
it was given to me by Sergeant Oshbacher.
Okay. And did you read that letter?
I did.
Okay. And what did you do after, if anything, after you read that letter?
I immediately started calling other county jails to see if they could investigate it as a PREA investigation or a sexual assault investigation.
Okay. And I think one
Can
of the
you, hold
questions-
on. I couldn't hear it. You immediately called who?
Other county jails,
Okay,
I called Douglas County and I called Sawyer County. I eventually called Bayfield County as well.
And I think we've got sort of two questions, which is when you're calling those counties, who are you talking to?
I attempted to speak with their jail lieutenants,
Okay.
but I could not reach any command staff.
Okay. And then I think another question is why is it you as the jail lieutenant who's making these calls wouldn't, first of all, why did you make those calls?
I just did.
Okay. And then I guess the next question is why did you report to the chief deputy next?
I went over to his office, but he was not available.
Okay, so is that why you made the calls yourself?
Yes,
Now I understand. Okay. And when you say available, do you mean he wasn't there?
correct.
Okay. And this is on October 23rd?
No, it was not. I did not receive that letter on the 23rd.
Okay.
That was actually a Sunday. I believe I received it on like the 27th.
Okay. Now I understand. So, not being able to get a hold of the chief deputy, how did you know who to contact in the other counties?
I just called around. I was very new to the job, and so, I mean, I'd only been doing that for a year and a half,
Okay.
and I had no training, so I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants.
Okay. And is that something you had to do before, which was call other counties for investigation?
Yes, well, that's what happened when my previous jail administrator was there.
Okay. So that you had seen that happen.
Yes,
Okay. And at that time, did the other counties investigate or something else?
no, they would usually do it for us.
Okay. Now, when you went to all these other counties, did you ever actually did you ever get a no from them? Or were you unable to reach them or what
I
happened?
was unable to reach command staff, and I didn't want to ask just correctional officers. So I then spoke with Sergeant Wilbur because I wanted to ask the Ashland Police Department.
Why was that your next choice?
Because the Ashland Police Department also does a lot of investigations for us.
Okay.
And Sergeant Wilbur works out with Scott Moreland, who was an investigator for Ashland Police Department. They work out every morning. So I called him to my office and and I asked him to get a hold of him and have him, give me paperwork.
I got it. So, because of your inability to get a hold of command staff, and did you ever ask the sheriff to assist you?
The sheriff was, on vacation
Right.
still for a couple of more days.
So Mr. Zupke was the acting sheriff at that time,
Correct,
but he was unavailable.
yes,
Okay, now I understand. So without the acting sheriff's help, you were unable to get a hold of command staff. Is that fair to say?
correct.
Okay, so then not being able to get a hold of any command staff, then you leveraged the resources that you had, which was the personal connection between Sergeant Wilbur and the police department.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you know that Sergeant Wilbur asked the police department to investigate?
I followed up, I gave him the paperwork and then I followed up with him the next day and said, did you give that to him?
Okay. And he said yes, I assume?
Yes,
Okay, so, and was that about the beginning of November? When did that happen?
yes, it was very early, no, well, maybe, I can't give you a for sure date, but I want to think it was the last couple of days of October or 1st or 2nd of November.
Okay, and just for clarity's purposes, you saying that you first heard about this, the letter anyways, on October 27th.
If we can look at a calendar and give you an exact date.
Fair enough. Well, I think we're clear enough, but I appreciate that. Okay. So, when did you learn what the disposition of the police department investigation?
I learned of it on November 15th. Sergeant Oshbacher came to me and said that Ashland Police Department said they are not going to do the investigation. And they gave the paperwork back. And I said, well, why? What did they say? And he goes, well, I really don't remember. So I contacted Lieutenant Moreland and asked if he could please send me an email with explaining why they wouldn't do it.
Now I understand. Okay. At any time between here and there, did you attempt to discuss anything with Mr. Zupke again?
It was, no, I had already by then told the sheriff.
Okay. So when the sheriff returned, that's when you told him?
Yes.
I understand.
He
Okay.
came back at the beginning of November.
Okay. So I got it. And I think part of the question is it routine here to try to get a hold of the chief deputy and the chief deputy would not be available?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, because I think the question is what would you do?
Well, I mean, it depends on what occurred. I mean, if there was a death in the jail, I would immediately call him. But a possibility of a sexual assault is not something that I felt was urgent enough to try and contact. You know, if he's not there, I would just try and get a hold of him another day.
Okay. Is it fair to say your main priority was to initiate the investigation?
Yes.
Why?
To find out if it really happened and take care of the inmates.
Okay. I got it. So as jail administrator, the number one priority is the safety of the inmates?
Yes,
Okay, how do you know that?
because I've been doing the job for almost 22 years.
Okay,
And I've had a lot of attempted suicides. And I say attempted because we've saved every one of them.
how many attempted suicides have you saved? Well, as jail administrator?
I would probably say at least 8 or 9.
Okay. And you were only the jail administrator for about how long?
about a year and a half. And I jumped from correctional officer to jail administrator.
On that note, do you know approximately when you became the administrator?
Well, I can tell you that they put, I believe it was May 19th on the date that I started getting paid as a jail administrator. However, I still was a correctional I still worked in the jail full-time as a correctional officer because we were shorthanded until July of 2021.
So
Okay.
sometime in May of 22?
Well, and let me ask this another way. You basically were promoted, or they gave you the duties of the jail administrator without actually giving you the promotion upon the death of your predecessor, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And that was in May of 21,
May 19th, I believe,
of 21?
of 21.
of 21, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not at all. Okay, so. And then, but then just again, you weren't actually given the promotion or title until what date?
I actually started only doing jail administration work in mid-July.
Okay, right. So there was a period of time where you were essentially doing both jobs.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. And we're getting paid for it, right?
I was not getting paid for it.
Okay,
I was told by Brian Zubke who was the chief deputy at the time, that I would get overtime, and that was not true. I did not get paid any overtime. I didn't get anything extra,
okay.
even though I was putting in 80 some hours a week.
Were you hourly at that time?
No, salary. Well, as soon as May 19th hit, they gave me a promotion letter, turned it into the county saying I was the jail administrator, but I was only being paid salary. So because there was no one to fill a female shift in the jail, I had to work as a jailer.
I understand. How were you confirmed as jail administrator, if you know?
I believe Mick brought it before, Sheriff Brennan brought it before the law enforcement board, and I was told. And since no one else had even wanted it, I was given the job.
Okay. So the law enforcement board was required, as far as you knew, the sheriff couldn't put you in that position without the law enforcement board's,
I believe so.
okay. And do you believe the law enforcement board participated in your termination?
No, I know that none of the county board knew of my termination. Well, I shouldn't say none. Maybe the board chair did, but no one else, because I went and spoke at a board meeting in the public comments,
Okay,
and everyone there was shocked. They had no knowledge of it.
okay. And Mr. Cadet knew that you were going to be terminated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Pierce also knew that?
I don't know about Pierce.
Okay, Mr. Zupke knew that?
Yes.
Mr. Grady knew that?
Yes,
Okay, and Mr. Lindsay knew that?
yes.
But the county board, other than the president, wasn't aware.
And Mr. Lindsay also said that he had no idea why I was getting fired, because I asked him when he handed me my demotion letter.
Okay. And based on what we've subsequently learned, that's not an accurate statement, was it?
No,
No, okay. At any other time, did Mr. Lindsay ever tell you that he was not aware of the reasons that you were being disciplined or terminated?
When I met him at his office on January 30th, he said, I don't know why there's nothing listed. If you have any questions about it, you need to file a grievance.
Okay, but that's based on the evidence that we've heard. That's not strictly accurate, is it?
Right.
Okay. Now, I know we had some coverage of this, but let's just go back for a second. This is this meeting that you had with Mr. Subke and Mr. Kadat on January 19th. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. At that meeting, and there's a recording of that meeting, is that right?
There is,
And you've listened to that, right?
I have,
Okay, and they didn't tell you that you were being recorded at that time, right?
no,
Okay, and just for everybody's understanding, approximately how many minutes were there between the time that you spoke with Mr. Lindsay and by the time that you were called into this meeting with Mr. Zupke?
2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, and Mr. Zupke again said in that meeting that he had no knowledge of this before. Sure, but in the meeting with Mr. Zupke and Mr. Kadat, Mr. Zupke told you that he had no knowledge of the sexual assault incident prior to 11/29 of 2022, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and you told him that that was not accurate, right?
Yes,
Okay, and that was based both on the 11/15 email and also your personal statements to him, right?
correct.
Okay, what, if anything, was his response to those statements?
Well, I actually said that he is forgetful because he does forget a lot.
A bit what? Yeah, speak up a little bit, sorry.
I'm sorry, I said that he was forgetful. He forgets a lot. I looked over at Kyle Kadat and I said, you even know that. And he got angry.
Okay, and did you tell him, did he tell you, did he allow you to speak further on why you believe that he knew about this incident on before 11/29?
No,
Okay. In fact, he told you that he wasn't, don't go there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then after that, did the sheriff explain to you that other people had told him that he needed to terminate you, but he wasn't going to terminate you?
yeah.
Okay. Did he explain to you why?
Why they wanted to terminate me?
No, and I love it when the witness explains to me why my question could be better put. The answer, my better phrasing of my question is, did Mr. Zupke ever tell you the reason why?
No, I've never gotten any write-ups. I've never been brought to his office and explained that I was doing anything wrong or bad.
Okay, and I think we've had some testimony that there was some issue about you being in the administrative area of the jail too much, right?
Yeah,
Okay. After your termination, did anybody make that accusation to you?
after my termination?
Right. Was that, for example, in the grievance, or did you see that in any other documents?
No, there was nothing.
Okay. So what is your knowledge of any allegations against you being on the administrative side of the building?
When I got the 3-page letter from Dan Grady
Okay. How was this issue communicated to you?
through an email from Dan Grady that said I believe it said response to grievance filing, I believe.
Oh, okay. And that came directly from Mr. Grady.
Yes,
Now I understand. Okay. So we're on the same page, and that's this document here. That's 23/02/16 response to grievance filing. That's got the Ashland County Administrator, and it's got the letterhead on it, and it's
Yeah.
dated February 16th.
yeah,
Okay. And that's the document that says that you were on the wrong side of the jail, right?
that I was in the administration.
Administration.
side, yeah.
Okay, I get that. And I'll just for clarity, if I can find it
Yeah.
here.
That is exhibit 6, just to make sure we've got it clear.
Thank you. All right. Now, we heard some testimony from the sheriff that he had heard complaints against you being on the administrative side of the jail while he was the sheriff, right?
Yes,
Okay, did he speak to you about those complaints?
he did.
Okay, and what, if anything, did you do in response?
I said that I would, instead of going over there and talking to the staff members, that I would, as much as possible, stay in my office and just use the phone.
Okay? And when about did that conversation happen? When did you make that shift?
Early November?
Okay, okay. And that was, I guess presumably when the sheriff came back from Florida.
Yes.
I got it. Okay. So just based on that timeline, I guess the question then is, Mr. Zupke is the acting sheriff. Then the actual sheriff comes back and he tells you what Mr. Zupke said, said that you were in the administrative side too long, right?
I would guess.
Okay, but did you know that it was coming, that information was coming from Mr. Zupke or
I
something
did
else?
not.
Not at that time.
No,
I understand. Okay. While Mr. Zupke was the acting sheriff, did he ever mention to you his concern about you being in the administrative side of the building too often?
one time.
Okay,
And that was, as a matter of fact, that's the only time that we ever discussed anything that I possibly was doing wrong. He said, you know, you're over here too much. You need to be on your own side. And I said, okay, well, I'll try and call you guys over here or use the phone.
okay.
But because of COVID, I wasn't allowing anyone into the jail, so I just used the phone.
I got it. Okay, so that's is it true that you were going over to the administrative side because the people on the administrative side couldn't come to you?
Correct.
I got it. Okay.
Plus, it was easier because I went to their offices and their desks because they had anything I needed from them, they had at their fingertips.
So staying in your office and using the phone was actually less efficient. Is that fair to say?
Very much so.
Okay. Do you mention that to the sheriff, Mick?
I did not,
Okay.
because if he told me to do something, I did it.
I got it. Okay, so at some point, the investigation, you tell Mr. Wilbur to give the investigation to a department employee, right?
Yes,
Do you pick who the department employee is?
no. Well, I don't pick who it goes to, but I know it goes to investigators.
Okay, and there's only 2 investigators available, right?
Correct.
Did you know one handled sexual assault and the other one didn't?
I know that one mainly handles sexual assaults, but they're both trained investigators.
Okay, so, and I think this is something that we want to be clear on here. Is there a point in which a incident in the jail can be investigated by jail non-law enforcement officer staff?
Yes,
Okay, and are there other incidents which are so significant that they need to be investigated by law enforcement officers?
well, when the sexual assault policy says there isn't a jail sexual assault policy.
Okay,
However, the department policy says any sexual assault need to be investigated by a trained investigator. And none of our staff are trained investigators.
and you mean none of your jail staff?
Correct.
Okay,
Do you have a site for that by any chance?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a site for where that is at in the policy?
It's the sexual assault policy.
Okay.
So I guess the first question would be, is the sexual assault policy contained within the general policy manual?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's say that's exhibit 4.